What's happening, everyone? My name is James Lynch, and this is the Fanatics View Hockey Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Apologies for being a little bit late today, and this being a different time. Normally, we do this at 12 Eastern. I had some other stuff going on today, so I didn't have a chance to do this at our usual time, but next week we'll go back to our regular time slot. Appreciate all of you being very patient. With that, if you have any questions, like usual, post them in the chat. I'll get to every single one of them I can. We got lots of time here today, guys. I really appreciate you tuning in. We've got a little bit of news going on in the world of the NHL, so we'll get into that, but I wanted to focus today on some big news for the Canucks. I know I talk a lot of the Canucks on here because obviously I live in Vancouver, but I think this is a big story and something that could impact the season for the Canucks, and that is the health of Thatcher Demko. I'm going to get a quote coming up here from GM Patrick Allvin, which I think was very telling of where Demko's at, and could impact the crease for the Canucks later this season. And I'll just say it off the top, like the fact that there's uncertainty right now with the Canucks, I think something to be worried about with Demko's health and everything. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and also check out some of the content we got on the channel over the last little bit here. Some Seattle Kraken stuff. A big season ahead for them. They've got a new coach in Dan Bilesma. Also saw they changed their TV rights. They're not with Root Sports anymore. They're doing everything in-house, which is interesting for the viewers out there. And they've made a bunch of moves in the offseason as well, acquiring or signing Matador and Chandler Stevenson. And we've got some interviews here on the channel right now. Again, the benefit of being subscribed to Fanatics Views, we have all different types of teams here on there. So we've got immediate availability from GM Ron Francis. We've got Matty Beniers, big bounce back season on his end, I'm sure, after last season. Adam Larson, of course, re-signing a 4-year extension with the Kraken as well. That was a good move by them. And then they got a bunch of media availabilities, including Shane Wright. I heard Ian Furness on Donnie and Dolly yesterday, talking about Shane Wright, and a lot of people talking about him. Is he a bust? He was taken 4th overall. A lot of expectations. If you remember that draft year, Shane Wright, a lot of people felt like he was going to be going 1st overall. He gets bumped from Montreal, bumped from other teams, and then he ends up 4th to Seattle. And it hasn't been a smooth transition for him. But Ian Furness, who's someone, like I said, who's very plugged in with Seattle Kraken, he believes Shane Wright will be the third-line center for the Seattle Kraken this year, and he thinks someone's going to be on the move, whether that's Brandon Tanev or Yanni Gourde, because they're going to have to clear some cap space. Because I actually didn't realize, and I'm going to go look that up right now as far as and we'll get to Demko in a second, but I did want to look at the cap situation with Seattle right now, because I wasn't aware of this, but they are apparently in some cap trouble right now. So yeah, look at this. No cap space right now. So they're going to have to move someone to be in the right cap, because I think even though they do have some cap space here, they need some more. So could we see a trade come training camp for the Seattle Kraken? If we look at the overview there, just $4,000 in cap space for the Seattle Kraken. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Although saying that, they're not the only team. There's a lot of teams that are in trouble right now when it comes to cap space. Once training camp hits, there's a number of teams that have too many goalies. So that's something to keep in mind with the Seattle Kraken this season as to their cap situation. But let's get to the Demko stuff. I'm going to find the quote here right now. Probably better on Twitter than we find it elsewhere. Let me just look at... Should have this ready to go. Where do we have it here? The Demko quote. Let's see. I wanted to find the exact quote. Actually, I know who had it the other day on Twitter. So this is something I wanted to focus on, because I think it's very interesting to see that... had here. Where is it? Here we go. This is the quote. And shout out to this guy Taj. I follow him on Twitter. He does a great job of pulling stuff out of articles and stuff that's said on radio. He's a very good follow for that. I says, Allvin on Demko. I think we'll know more here in the next couple of days regarding Demko with the medicals, if he's going to be able to start camp or not. So this is the first time that the GM, to my knowledge anyways, has acknowledged that Demko may or may not be ready. It's kind of been tight-lipped. We got word of this Demko stuff. I know Rick Dollywell had a tweet in the summer, we're still in the summer, I guess, but, prior to the summer, talking a bit about, Demko, and there could be, that there's been some slow progress on his injury from the playoffs last year. This is a big piece of the puzzle, because, you got to remember, while the Canucks had a lot of success last year, a lot of that was the fact that Demko was healthy most of the season too. There were games when he was standing on his head, not as much as years past. I think they definitely played a more structured game last year, but Demko was a big reason that they were off to such a good start and was able to maintain that throughout the rest of the year. And I don't have the stat in front of me, but I remember when when Demko went down and it was Casey DeSmith, their record wasn't that great. They were having some issues with consistency and winning games. And, because they had such a good start to the season, they still ended up making the playoffs and making some noise there. But I think Demko is, I think this is a fair argument, and let me know in the chat if you agree or disagree here. I think Demko really is one of their MVPs on this team. Like, if he's not at a high level, how is this team going to look? Now, look, Arthur Seelovs, I'm a believer. I don't think that playoff run last year when Demko went down was a flash in the pan. He played very well against Edmonton. I didn't feel like there were any goals that he let in that were like, oh, you would have liked that back. Like, I think he played solid, especially for a guy with not a lot of NHL experience. I'm not worried about Seelovs taking the reins in the meantime if Demko's out, because I think he can hold it together. Unless like something's changed over the summer, although we did hear that obviously Seelovs as well is not playing for Latvia in the upcoming tournament that they're having. So, and he's dealing with a bit of knee soreness is my understanding. Nothing serious, nothing that needs like surgery or anything like that. But the idea, anyways, kind of the point I'm getting at right now is that the Canucks are looking to add another goaltender. Here's what we've been hearing as far as news is that they did reach out to Antti Ranta, the former goaltender of the Carolina Hurricanes. There is some familiarity there with the management group, but he basically said, look, I'm 35. I don't want to be, a potential guy, third string goalie, because that's essentially what would happen if Demko and Seelovs came back. So instead, what you're getting is, you want someone that, can be a little bit more flexible about that. So that's where, Ranta, my understanding is he's going to go play overseas, which I get. He'll get more playing time. He doesn't feel like he can contribute at the level he wants in the NHL. So he's off the table. And then if you look at the other goaltenders available, there just aren't many. The number one choice for the Canucks, what we've been hearing in recent weeks, is Kevin Lankinen. Here, I'll just do a quick Google search. Kevin Lankinen, as I can't spell that correctly. So you can see here a lot of news about Kevin Lankinen, and the Canucks are still in negotiations with him. The issue with Lankinen is he got paid $2 million last season, and he didn't exactly play bad. But I think the Canucks are playing a little game of cat and mouse where it's like, okay, can we get him on a cheaper contract? Because the Canucks are right up against the cap right now, because they're not putting Tucker Poolman on LTIR. And the idea with the Canucks, and they've said this before, is they don't want to see. Look at their cap space; it's barely anything. They don't want to put Tucker Poolman on LTIR, but they might have to because, again, if Seelovs isn't 100%, if Demko's not ready to go, you've got Yuri Patera, who I think has 8 NHL games. They did sign Dylan Ferguson to a PTO. If you remember Dylan Ferguson, previously with the Ottawa Senators, played a game for the Vegas Golden Knights. That's not someone you have wanting to start for the Canucks. So they've got to figure something out. Now, there's this other school of thought as well, which could be a risky game, and I'll explain what I mean in a second here. There's a school of thought that the Canucks could just wait out and see what happens. I talked off the top about there's a couple teams like Detroit and Buffalo that have a very crowded crease when it comes to goaltenders. So there could be some names on there that get put on waivers. The Canucks could get one of those goalies on the cheap, but that's a bit of a risk as well, because what if none of those goalies become available, or what if something else happens, or what if they trade them? That's a bit of a risk. Lankinen's a sure thing. The issue is he's going to want more money. He's probably going to want more than, Casey DeSmith got, which is who their backup was last year. And DeSmith only got $1 million a season. So that's where things get very interesting with the Canucks and what type of decision they're going to make. Are they going to go that route of, wanting to sign a guy like Lankinen and potentially, mess up their cap? Because again, like I said, the goal is for them to not have to put Poolman on LTR, but they might have to. So some interesting decisions. Again, this was a couple days ago. This was September 17th. This was today's the 18th. So I would imagine in the next couple days we're going to get some clarity on the Demko situation, as far as like if he's going to be what the timeline is. Is he going to be ready for camp? Is he not? If Demko's able to come back, I think the rumor is, what I've heard is that Demko might not come back till late October, November. So, that's what, 10 games? Because I think the season starts in October. So how many games would that be over the span of the month? I don't know. My math was never my strong suit. I guess the question is, do you ride out the storm and potentially have the team, having goaltending as a liability, or do you sign a guy like Lankinen to make sure that doesn't happen? Because Lankinen is a solid goaltender, and he's someone that would give you that insurance if Demko and Seelovs aren't ready to go. So that's the big question. So a lot of decisions here with GM Patrick Allvin. We also had some other news yesterday too that I do think is worth mentioning with the Canucks. Dakota Joshua, cancer scare for him. Did you guys see this? I'm going to read the statement right now. Apparently he's going to be okay, but man, if there's talk about some bad luck in this offseason. Dakota Joshua says, this summer I felt a lump on one of my testicles that the doctor would later diagnose as testicular cancer. This news was obviously scary to hear, but thankfully doctors were able to successfully remove the tumor. The last several weeks have been extremely challenging. I've been fortunate to have the support of my family, friends, and doctors. Fortunately, I will not be ready for the start of training camp as I continue to heal from surgery. I plan on returning to play as soon as possible, working hard to rejoin my teammates, although it was difficult to face the reality of the specific type of cancer, getting checked by the doctor quickly. So yeah, long story. First off, glad they found it. Dakota Joshua, one of my favorite players to watch. I remember him in the Nashville series, so effective. Rare player, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on the show, like a good deal for the Canucks. He got him, they got him at what was the cap hit on Joshua? They got him at a pretty good, reasonable rate for a guy that can do it all. He can score. He's physical. He's a big part of this team, and he's a big part of that third line as well. So Dakota Joshua, 3.2. I mean, there were some people that felt that he was going to get at least $4 million on the open market there. So that's where things get a bit interesting. Where now here's the thing. Obviously, in the forward group of the Canucks, they're not hurting. In fact, they have too many players, if anything. So yeah, Joshua being out, not as big of a deal as Demko or Silov's being out. They've got guys waiting in the wings. You got Phil DiGiuseppe, you got Neil Zaman. You've got a lot of names here that can step right in. Remember, they signed Sammy Biles. I believe that's how you say it, as well. So there's some names that could step in there to fill Joshua. But yeah, the goaltending thing's going to be that as well. So could they bring Tapilo up? They could, because I think the idea, Jeremy, and by the way, shout out to my guy, Jeremy Brand, for joining the chat. Jeremy, we got to get a tea time here soon, playing some golf. Let me know if you're around this weekend. They could bring him up, but because I think the idea is they want Patera to start in Utica for the Utica Canucks. So, but Tapilo, I don't think has any NHL games. So it's like, do you want him in your net? Like, you want someone that's had some experience. And yes, check your jewels for sure. Reminds me, I need to probably get a physical myself. So should look that up. But yeah, again, some question marks going into the season. I feel like every year, mind you, this is with every team, there's always some questions. Like, remember, was it a couple seasons ago, Brock Besser got injured, couldn't start the season. So this is nothing new for Canucks. I mean, they're always dealing with something. So, yeah, again, to answer the question that's on the topic of this today's chat, your concern level for Thatcher Demko, to me, it's an 8. I'm very concerned. Because, even if Silov steps in, and I am a believer in Silov's, I'm not a believer in Silov's, carrying like a 60-game workload or whatever it could be. I mean, we don't know what Demko's dealing with. And there's a school of thought now with Demko that, that he's injury prone at this point, right? So we'll have to see. I actually, hold on, I'm just going to check this out. I wanted to get the quote. Jamie McLennan was on Donnie and Dolly yesterday, and Jamie McLennan is one of the best, analysts when it comes to goaltenders, former goaltender of the Florida Panthers, Calgary Flames, Minnesota Wild. I think Jamie McLennan was with them. He even said yesterday it's concerning. So yeah, I don't think I'm alone here. Let me know in the chat what you think, but I think it's very concerning for the Canucks just because, Demko, it's not like they're heavily reliant on Demko, but it's also a big piece of the puzzle for them. Like, they don't have to worry about it. For example, let's look at the Oilers last year. I think one of the big reasons they got off to such a bad start last year was Jack Campbell actually absolutely shit the bed, right? And then they went with Stuart Skinner, and now Jack Campbell's playing in Detroit and played most of last year in the minors. So goaltending is important, ladies and gentlemen. You need good goaltending to do well in the playoffs. A couple other bit of news we'll talk about here today. Again, let me know in the comments what you guys want to talk about. Again, I always say this is your show, not mine. Just come up with a few topics. So one of the things that was big news today, Bell selling their interest in Maple Leaf Sports. Actually, that they're wording this not right. Let me find the proper wording here. So Rogers Media, company I used to work for back in the day in Canada, has purchased the Toronto Maple Leafs. Here we go. Directly from their website. So Rogers Media, who already owns the Toronto Blue Jays, has become a majority owner of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. Now, my first thought when I saw this, first off, I don't know how it is in the US, but in Canada, we have two basically big media companies that run like telephone, cable, internet, all that stuff. And that's Bell and Rogers. So these are the two heavyweights in the media landscape here in Canada. But my first thought is this going to change the way the coverage is on Sportsnet with the Leafs? Because if Rogers owns the team, are they going to be able to be as outspoken? Now, I couldn't tell you. If there's anyone here that watches baseball, you let me know. But I know there has been some criticism in the past with the Toronto Blue Jays about their coverage where, maybe they're not being as hard on the team as they could be because they are owned. You're basically crapping on the team that your company that you work for owns. So I wonder if the same thing's going to happen here. Are people going to be scaling back on the criticism of the Leafs? So that's one thing I think of. The other thing I think of is this is a huge deal. Like, I don't think the TV deal for Rogers, who owns Sportsnet, has worked out very well for Sportsnet. We've seen a lot of layoffs, a lot of changes since that first deal. There was a 10-year deal, I believe, that they had back when they got the TV rights a long time ago. And there's been a lot of people that have come and gone. Let's just go over some of the names. George Stroumboulopoulos, who I still really like. They got rid of him in like a couple of years in. Don Cherry's gone. Now, that was obviously for other stuff, but he was also a big name. We saw Chris Simpson leave Sportsnet recently. Jeff Merrick left recently. I know those are, Jeff Merrick thing's a bit separate, but we've seen a lot of changes in that 10 years. And I just wonder, how this is all going to play out with the Leafs, but that's some big news that we can't ignore. So obviously Rogers getting a majority stake. The other thing we got to mention is something we talked about last week, Sidney Crosby signing an $8.7 million contract with the Penguins. So it matches his number. And if you're a Penguins fan, you got to be thrilled by this for two reasons. Number one, obviously he's likely going to retire. This is something we debated last week, and I figured that was close to happening. The other thing is you got him at a pretty good cap hit. Sidney Crosby should be paid at least $10 million or more, considering he's one of the best players in the league. You're getting him at 8.7. I mean, he's making just a little bit more than, well, I shouldn't say a little bit. He's making like almost $1 million more than JT Miller, and I think Crosby's a better player than JT Miller. So, yeah, it's good to see. Crosby will be someone probably like Mario Lemieux that will always be involved with the organization going forward. And this will help the Penguins. The only thing I'll say, though, and I've said this before in this show, I don't think the Penguins are going to make the playoffs. We talked about this before. Let's look at the standings from last year. I got some question marks, and I said this last week too. I think the Penguins wasted their cap space last season with some moves that did not pan out. Graves. I don't think Erik Karlsson's worked out the way they wanted. They signed Tristan Jarry, who might end up being the backup this year. But you look at the Eastern Conference right now. The only team I see being out of this playoff mix is potentially the Islanders because they really haven't done anything. Like getting Anthony Duclair is not going to be the difference between them, making any major changes this year. I think Washington's got better with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Jacob Chychrun. I think the Lightning will be there. I think the Leafs will probably be there. I don't think the Leafs did lose a few pieces, but not enough that I think they're going to be out of the playoffs. They are still a question mark, though. I think there's a possibility the Leafs could miss the playoffs. So these are the only two teams that are on their outs. Now, who gets in? That's the question. Columbus, no, especially not with, unfortunately, the tragedy with Johnny Gaudreau. Canadians are rebuilding, so no there. I think the Senators, well, maybe. I mean, because they got goaltending now. That's the big one. I think New Jersey's pretty much a shoo-in to make the playoffs. So already you have one team that's going to fill up that spot of possibly Toronto or the Islanders missing it, because I think all these other teams will make it. So New Jersey's for sure going to make it, I think. And then it comes down to, the Sabres, probably not. Flyers, probably not. Wings, probably not. So yeah, maybe Pittsburgh squeaks in, but I think it's going to be harder because I think Pittsburgh, I know they were, a point out of getting in last year, but I also think some teams have leveled up. You know what? Honestly, if I'm picking between Pittsburgh and Toronto making it, I'm going to take Toronto. So that's what I mean. Like, I know Crosby's loyal, and I think that's great, but I don't think Pittsburgh's going to make the playoffs. I'm going to say that now as a prediction. And I know the media loves Pittsburgh. They think it's, amazing and all that stuff. But, I don't see that. I don't see that happening here. So, good luck to Sidney Crosby, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Let's get to some more questions here. My guy, Jeremy. Oreo cookie, great, overrated, but like the Leafs. Yeah, so I guess Oreo's a sponsor of the Leafs now, which is interesting. Kind of fits the color scheme. How superstitious is Crosby? I'm pretty sure he's always gotten 8.7. I think it's more of like a principle thing, but I don't know if it's a superstition thing. 2 captains now today, Foligno at the Hawks and Hedman on the Bolts. That makes sense. Well deserved for Hedman. Long-serving member of the Lightning. Really good defenseman for them. I think that's the right move there. Hedman doesn't he need to get re-signed soon? I feel like he does. By the way, Jeremy, I got to get you on this show sometime. You know your hockey. Always willing to let people come on here. They got like no cap space either. Hedman. No, Hedman's got a couple more seasons. Why did I think he was up soon? Hedman is, he's at $8 million until 27, 28. So that makes sense. I was thinking like, are they going to make a captain someone that's not going to be there that long? Obviously, he's going to be there for a while. Who else? Nick Foligno in Chicago. Yeah, that makes sense. Taylor Hall's still with them, right? Wonder if that was considered. But I guess is Foligno, maybe Hall's not signed as long. That could be it too. How long's Foligno signed with them? He's at 2 more seasons. Yeah, I could see that. He was going to be some veteran. It wasn't going to be Tyler Bertuzzi. I guess Hall, the fact that he's UFA next year, maybe that caused them not to go that route. But yeah, Foligno made sense. Didn't think it was going to be Ilya Mikheyev. Let's put it that way. What other news? We got some other things going on. Again, I'm so happy, guys. Hockey's almost here. Already starting training camps, getting underway. I think it's this week. Let's get some more NHL news that's going on right now, guys. What else? Biggest storylines, yeah. Oilers assistant general manager Brad Holland mutually agrees to part ways. Is Brad Holland related to Kevin Holland? I'm guessing it's because they had Stan Bowman on there. Joined as a scout, promoted to assistant GM. Holland is the son of former Oilers general manager Kevin Holland. Well, that makes sense as to why they would part ways with him. Once he retires, it'll be Bedard. Absolutely. Well, you know what? Bedard should refuse and be like, you know what, guys? I'm going to go back home to Vancouver. I want him to come back. I think, you know what? I think there's a chance he will leave Chicago at some point, Jeremy, because like he still like comes back here in the summer. We saw him do the grouse grind. Imagine like him and Malcolm Celebrini are just like, see you guys. We're going to come play for Vancouver. How awesome would that be? That would be so cool. One can only hope. One can only hope. We've never had like a homegrown like superstar here. What else? Stars signed Esa Lindell to an extension. That was good. Sabres reached a deal with Peyton Krebs. So you're starting to see. Oh, I know some news that we got to talk about. Jeremy Swayman still not signed. Any Bruins fans in here? Are you guys concerned about this? This is the latest on Jeremy Swayman, their prized goaltender. And remember, they got rid of Allmark. So, and I guess who's their backup now? It's they got someone in a trade. Forget who it was. Oh, it's what's his name? The Ottawa guy that they got in return, Korpisalo, at $3 million a season. So yeah, they could just play Korpisalo, but Swayman not in camp without deal. It's a distraction. You never want to have that if you're a team. So we'll have to figure it out. I get it from the Bruins' perspective. Like Swayman has not proven a ton, but you also want to get this taken care of here soon. So. Yeah, Korpisalo, though, I guess they could use him in the meantime. I think Boston's good enough defensively that they could figure that out, right? So, what other news do we got? Edler signing a one-day contract with the Canucks. I'm so happy to see this because he didn't have a very good exit with the Canucks. I mean, he went to go play in LA, which didn't really do much. So, that's awesome. Good. I'm glad the Canucks did that. I always liked Edler, serviceable member of the team. Oilers signed Mike Hoffman. I like that move for them. Hoffman, not what he used to be, but you need to get guys like this. Because what was the reason they signed Hoffman? Someone's not ready to go. I read this yesterday. I think Jim Matheson had a tweet on this. Let me find that tweet. Sorry, guys. Still a little congested. Oh, Zach Cassian is on the Oilers staff as a pro scout. Interesting. Also, Travis Dermott has joined the Oilers there as well. Kane has 2 hernias and 2 torn muscles in his abdomen. No timeline for return with surgery. Gotcha. That makes sense. Let's see. Yeah, there's some player that's not ready to go for the Oilers, and I can't remember who it was, but that's why they brought in Hoffman instead. I can't remember who it was that yeah, good tweet here by Frank Saravalli. Is that let me just pull. Oh yeah, got it right here. Red Wings goaltending pecking order at the end of training camp: Cam Talbot, Billy Husso, and Alex Leon, Sebastian Costas. Yeah, they have 5 goalies. I saw someone mention Campbell to the Canucks. No, please no. Campbell's done. I wouldn't mind Husso. No, I think they're going to keep Husso. None of these options are really good, to be honest. But that's what I mean. Like the Canucks maybe should just hold on and see if someone bites there. So they'll have to do something there. That'll be interesting. What else? What else is in the news today, guys? Yeah, Yeah, so I mentioned it there. Travis Dermott and Mike Hoffman signing PTOs with the Oilers, so that'll be kind of interesting there as well. What else do we have? Blues add 6 tryouts to the training camp roster. Anyone notable here? Let's see. No. Any, let me just look for any PTOs. You know I'm obsessed with the PTOs. PTO tryouts. Players signed to professional tryouts for training camps. Awesome. This is exactly the type of news I like to see. Let's have a look. NHL.com. Kalen Addison, Tyson Barrie with Calgary. Oh, so some of these you already know. Skylar Brindamore. He's the son of, I didn't know Rod Brindamore had a son. That's cool. So he's going to go with them. Sammy Biles, Bellemare, Travis Dermott, Sam Gagner with the Carolina Hurricanes. Sam Gagner is still playing. Remember that was one of Jim Benning's bad moves, was signing Sam Gagner. It didn't work out. John Gillies. Is he related to Clark Gillies? I'm sure he is. Mike Hoffman. Oh, Hoffman is in for, what's his name? Kane. That's probably what it was. Tyler Johnson with the Boston Bruins. That makes sense. Kincaid. Keith Kincaid's back. Played in 22-23 with the Islanders. That's interesting. Kuhlman with the Ottawa Senators. Played in 2017-2018. Kevin LeBlanc. Oh, LeBlanc did get a tryout. Oh, good for him. So he's with the Devils. That'll be a good fit for them. Lidstrom with the Ducks. Matt Martin with the Islanders is back. Max Pacioretty, we knew about that already. Pearson with the Knights, we know that already. Who else? Kyler Yamamoto's with Utah. Okay, so he finally gets picked up. Well, that's good. So yeah, we'll see if any of these names make it. A lot of these don't, though. A lot of these guys try out. They don't make it. I remember Brandon Sutter last year, former Canuck, tried out with the Oilers, and then he ended up retiring. So he hopes some of these guys latch on here. We'll have to see. All right, everyone, keep the questions coming. I know we don't have a ton today. Again, I blame the later time on this, but yeah, we got a lot to sort of discuss, so we'll have to see about that there. What else do we got, guys? Let's see. Let's see what else we got here, guys. This is a nice touch. Blue Jackets GM Don Waddell announced they will be keeping a stall for Johnny Gaudreau this season. This could be a rallying point for this team. We need to get Troy back on here, but I agree. Like, yeah, that's a good move. Still can't believe he's gone, man. It's crazy. Totally crazy that's happened. What else do we have here, guys? Let's keep going through the news. Again, a little bit slower of a show. I'm going to try and get a guest on. I know I keep saying that, but I keep getting busy, guys, so I haven't had a ton to talk about there. Let's see what other news we got going on. This Canucks article. Trying to find some news here, guys. Let's see what other news we have. News. Let's see some 5 bold predictions for the Hockey News. We can debate these right now. We'll see what they have to say here. The Hockey News, really enjoy everything that the Hockey News does. Good site here. From Adam Protu, someone I used to read when I was a kid. So let's have a look at what he's predicting. Okay, what does he say here? Prediction: Boston Bruins star goalie Jeremy Swayden isn't around for training camp as he angles for a contract, but he agrees to a new deal just before the regular season begins. I don't think that's very bold. I think that'll probably happen. They'll figure it out. Buffalo Sabres goalie Jane Reimer earns a backup job, but up-and-comer Devin Levi shows in camp and will be to rely on. Levi's still pretty young, though, so I could see that happening, too. I'm sure there's something on here that we will disagree with. Yeah, he's 22 years old, so he's got time to figure it out. Detroit Red Wings, Morris Seider signs a contract extension in the middle of training camp, which will pay him $8.5 per season. I think that could make sense. There's got to be something I disagree with on here. Tampa Bay Lightning, Ryan McDonough looks right at home in his second stint with the team, solidifying the Bolts' second defensive pairing. He looked okay last year. Maybe I'll disagree on that one. I don't know if, I don't know. How old's McDonough? He's 38, I think, isn't he? Or is he a bit older than I think? He is 35, so he's getting up there. And what's the other bold one? Pacioretty capitalizes on his professional tryout offer, winning the left winger position. I could see that happening. Pacioretty, he had a bit of a weird last couple seasons. Some bad luck, right? Some injuries. But he did play well for Washington down the stretch, so I could see that being something worth keeping an eye on. Meanwhile, Nick Robertson doesn't perform poorly in camp, but slides down the depth charts and on the third line. While Toronto ships out at least 1 or 2 veterans down the depth chart, I could see that happening. And that's it. Okay, well, I agree with most of what he said, so that's not very fun. What else do we got here, guys? Let's see some other news. Yeah, the Mike Hoffman thing. Let's go over that a little bit more. 745 games, 33 appearances in Stanley Cup playoffs, will attend Oilers training camp on a tryout basis. 34-year-old has 228 goals, 259 assists. How did he do last year? What was his stats last year? This could be a fit. Oilers have been pretty good about getting veterans. Like they got Corey Perry last year, and they've had... So they played for San Jose, and he got 23 points. Although San Jose was pretty terrible last year. So, yeah, big dip in production. Like, look at this. Like, with the Panthers, he had 70 points back in 2018, 2019, and then he gets 23 last year. But, he, mind you, you're playing 20 less games. Yeah, that's not good. 23 points. He's been going down almost every year. So something's got to give. He was minus 24 that year with the Canadiens. Not good, not good. So... that's an interesting one as well. Travis Dermott, I remember the Canucks had him a couple of years ago. He played with, I believe it was Phoenix or Arizona last year. Let's see. Prior to his time in Arizona, spent 2 seasons there. How was his stats last year? He was okay for the Leafs. Didn't really fit in with the Canucks, but he had a concussion, kind of limited his games and everything. So. Yeah, he got 17 points with the Leafs in 2018-19 and hasn't come close to replicating that. He had 50 games last year, 7 points. Not good. I know Arizona's not that good, but that's not encouraging at all. He had 1 goal for the Canucks, who's -4 that season he played, the 2 seasons he played with them. Didn't get a lot of action in there. Wish him well though. 27, kind of see is what you see is what you get. What else do we got for news? Edler to retire. Kane to miss start of the season. I think Kane's going to be out for most of the season. You can use that cap space. Fligo named captain. Where else has Nick Foligno played? I remember Columbus, Ottawa, Boston, I think he played for. Always forget about Nick Foligno. Ottawa, Columbus, Toronto had that one season at the trade deadline and then played a couple seasons for the Bruins and then going to the Blackhawks. Oh, there we go. Lucas Raymond signing with the Red Wings. You knew that was happening. 64.6. What's the AAV on that? $8 million a season. Yeah, it's a good move for them. 22 years old. You're getting him for a bunch of couple of UFA years, so that's good. Yeah, he's good. He's solid. When was he drafted? He was a pretty high draft pick, if I remember correctly. Fourth overall, I'd say so. What was that draft year? Who was in that draft that year? Lafreniere. Yeah, he was actually one of the better players there. Him and Tim Stoltze. Byfield was a good pick up there, but yeah, Lafreniere. I mean, he's starting to pan out a bit, but he doesn't look like a first overall pick. Then after that, like Alexander Holtz is on Vegas now. Jake Sanderson. Cole Peretti, who I believe still needs to be signed by Winnipeg. Dylan Holloway, who just got with the St. Louis Blues now. Yeah, not a strong draft year for sure, but that's a good pickup for them. What other news is going on right now? Let's keep it going. We're probably going to do a shorter day, guys. I'm not going to lie. I know, again, different time and everything up, but please let me, post your questions in the chat. That would be awesome. What else do we have here, guys? Huberdeau needs to bounce back. Yes, he does. Just reading some other stuff. Grant Clark wants to be great in his first season with the Kings. Oh, James Van Riemsdyk signing with the Jackets. I like that move. So that's not a PTO. It's an actual contract. That's a good move. They need some veteran guys in there. I mean, you're not going to get, again, let's look at the production from James Van Riemsdyk. I remember when he played for the Leafs and he was with the Flyers for a while. And yeah, so started his career off pretty good. 40 points that one year. Got 60 points with the Leafs back in 2012, 2013. And then decent numbers. I didn't realize he still got 38 points with the Bruins last year. That's not bad. Mind you, he was making more money. So that's, good. This is what you got to do. These are the teams that make the savvy moves, is where they can go out and they can sign guys to, you know, like veteran contracts, and there's a lot of upside there. And again, that's not going to hurt their cap at all, although they have a ton of cap space anyways. That's why I say Columbus is a team to watch, because they got a ton of cap space that they can work with. But again, they've got 38 points last year. That's going to be a good addition to Columbus. I like that move a lot. And if we're looking at the Columbus Blue Jackets' cap space, it's not bad. Whoops. Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus Blue Jackets Puckpedia. Let's have a look here. Where are we at? Yeah, they've got $24 million in cap space. Keep an eye on Columbus at the beginning of the season, because they're going to utilize that cap space with teams that are in a cap crunch. That's what they should be doing anyways. And they've got a couple of picks here. They've got all their picks for the next 3 years. They've got a second as well. So they might look to fill that void with the second round picks as well. Maybe take on some bad contracts, get some picks out of it. They've got some third round picks as well. They've got 2 in 2027. So yeah, they got a lot of picks. Unlike my Canucks, who don't have much. Look at what Vancouver has. Mind you, I guess they have their first round picks for the next couple of years. They have a couple second round picks. They don't have a second in 2027, because I think that was in the Ilya Mikheyev trade to Chicago, and then no third round picks. So they're going to try and get some as well. So, a bit of update here. Arthur Silovs participated in Thursday's informal skate with his teammates. Brennan Batchelor reports. Expected return September 24th. So that's good. So yeah, just catching that news as well. Let's see if I can find any more news here, guys. Then we're probably going to wrap this up. Good chat here today, though, guys. Oh, here we go. Here's an interesting one. Alex Stalock has retired. He's bounced around a few teams in the past. How old is he? 11 NHL seasons, 37 years old. Yeah, that makes sense. Will join the San Jose Sharks broadcast crew on radio and television. That's good. He's going to get a job after this. Went 70-65. So winning record, Sharks, Minnesota Wild, and Blackhawks. Good for him. That definitely makes some sense, guys. All right, guys, bit of a lighter show today, but this is going to happen. Again, we're going to get a lot more news next week. There'll be a lot more to chew on as training camp is getting underway here. And I'll try and get a guest next week, guys. Hopefully it'll be at the right time, as usual, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you guys are watching the replay of this, post a comment here. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Again, appreciate you guys tuning in here today. This is the Fanatics View Hockey Show. I'll talk to you guys next week. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Take care.